Hey and welcome, I'm Hammeh and it is Sigma Origin time. Sigma has been revealed as Overwatch's 31st hero with an Origin trailer and Origin story. Now it doesn't tell us everything about him. I'm going to pause it and go through some of the key lore points that we learned. But have a look at this, doing a little bit of conducting, and then he spawns these two little orbs. That's going to be important, I think, for his ability set. So let's rewind old Sigma to the beginning. And now I will pause through and talk through this as we go, just to do a bit of lore analysis for you as to what we have now learned about this. So first things first, I'm just going to pause here. Now, obviously, you see this orb that's just sitting here. This was kind of there to start with. We saw these at the end. Sigma was moving two of those. He was throwing two of those around. So I wonder what those actually are and what they'll actually do. I'll speculate on his abilities a little bit at the end, but I think those, whatever they are very much sort of containment devices, something he's created as an invention, and they're going to be tied into his abilities. Remember, of course, we are talking a gravity hero. They open up for some reason.
Gravity.
So I'm just going to turn this down a little bit.
Gravity.
We obviously know here that in following on from the two teasers, that Sigma is a scientist, or was a scientist of some description, and he was working on harnessing the power of a black hole. Decades, he says, he's been working towards this moment.
My entire career has been devoted to this idea, to this moment. Decades. If the unifying theories are correct, we will soon be able to harness the power of a black hole.
And looking at this, by the way, you can see Sigma. That's the little Sigma badge behind there. Moving that by accident. Jumping on the whiteboard, you can see that Sigma is actually on this board. He's drawing with a pen, and we see those pens again in a future scene, whether he's actually in his lab, whether he's sort of having a vision in his lab. That's kind of important. We can also see here that even on his jacket here, he's got these little sort of ports. And we see these, or something like those, come up again on his armor in the future. And I know it's kind of a fairly common Overwatch sort of armor feature, but keep an eye out for those. So Sigma was experimenting. He was doing some work. And obviously, as we can see, in the social media descriptions that launched this trailer, he was described as being a bit eccentric. So maybe he was eccentric before. He's certainly not a well person now. I would put it that much. I would certainly not describe him as being eccentric now.
Nothing will ever be the same. Why? This is wrong. The field is failing.
So poor Sigma here, whatever his name is. By the way, I'll just jump in here and say that the voice actor for Sigma has been shared by Michael Chu over on Twitter. It is a gentleman called Boris Hiestand, and it appears that he's Dutch. So welcome Boris Hiestand to the Overwatch voice actor family. But it appears that we're going to have that Sigma may well be a Dutch hero, and indeed if you listen to the accent, to me sounds a little bit Dutch. Let me know if you're Dutch, or similarly if you think that that's the case. But I think he sounds a bit Dutch to me. So here we see that Sigma's experiment has gone very, very wrong, attempting to harness the power of this black hole. And we saw, of course, on the teaser what sucked Jeff in there. We actually see Sigma sort of doubling up in a similar visual effect. Black holes mess with a lot of things, including, theoretically, the space-time and the concept of time around them. So what effect this had on Sigma, being the first human, as far as we know, to have an accident of this kind with a black hole. Who knows what it's done to his physiology, his mind. This goes into the sort of willing suspension of disbelief, science fiction. Who knows what's happened to him here. But yeah, definitely, poor guy. If he was eccentric before, he's certainly not well now.
What happened? Where am I? Why am I being imprisoned? Release me!
Now, this is all very, very interesting up until this point. So we now know that he's imprisoned against his will. A lot of people were saying, look, he could be, the orange jumpsuit could mean that he's, working in a variety of different places. But now he's subject Sigma, and he is very clearly looking to be in some kind of manacles or something there, or restrained in some kind of way. But when he's sort of saying, release me, his head then starts shaking around. He's not sure where he is. He's hearing music in his head. What is that melody? He wants to be released. He's sounding scared. So this is not a well person. This is not someone who is here under his own volition. But we don't know the circumstances under why he's being kept here so far. We will see. We will see. But apparently his description says, well, the description of the video, we don't have a full hero bio on the website as I'm making this video, so we don't know exactly how he's being used as a living weapon, but the tweet and the short YouTube caption on the video also said he's unaware that he's being used as a living weapon by Talon. But more on that in a bit. So sadly, this man is ill. He has some kind of psychological trauma from whatever happened to him, scientifically or otherwise, and he has been taken captive or being studied or something. But yeah, poor guy.
What is that melody?
Now, if I just quickly wind back there, obviously we have the what is that melody, but we have Sigma.
Why am I being imprisoned? Release me!
Now, can you see him? All of these pieces of matter, all of this metal, all of this everything around him is flying up in the air. You know, it's like he's manipulating, well, gravity to move this stuff or whatever it is. There's something a bit Magneto-y about it to me. Here, I think, as well. And let's bear that in mind for when we have a look and think and speculate about abilities later.
What is that melody? Hold it together. 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 Density, mass, momentum. It is too.
So, again, interesting here that we've seen this kind of thing before. And you know, when he's just sort of sitting there quietly here, wondering what the music is. He's having auditory hallucinations. He's certainly having hallucinations. He doesn't even, to me, sort of seem to be quite on a straight, unified timeline. And I wonder if the black hole exposure has somehow affected, at the very least, his perception of time. I'm not saying he's jumping backwards and forwards through time. He's trying to hold it together. Now, we have seen someone in a similar-ish state of being sort of 2-3 different people trying to hold themselves in one particular time and space. And that's, of course, Tracer. Tracer from her chronal disassociation. So is Sigma suffering something similar? Would a black hole with its effects on space-time, and if you're familiar, or if you're an astrophysicist and can tell me in a good way that what effects that a black hole could have on space-time, even hypothetically if you stuck a human near it, please do let me know in the comments. We'd all love to know that. please do get stuck into that. But yeah, there's sort of 2-3 sort of copies of him here that we see, just here. To me, that's looking like Tracer in that Tracer Origin trailer way back from the early BlizzCons before Overwatch launched. It was never really released as a full asset, but it's still there on the internet, and I've used it in many of my videos, where you see 2 or 3 different copies of her bouncing around effectively a cell, as it were, or a room that Winston was chronally controlling. So does Sigma have some kind of chronal disassociation, like Tracer? Is that how he's trying to hold it together? Is he trying to hold himself in one time and space after exposure to a black hole? I like that idea personally, but who knows?
Hold it together. Hold it together. Density, mass, momentum. It is too. It's too much to hold on to.
So again, you've got this, and I want to do the freeze frame. It's probably just jumping between the 2 images. But can we now see that he's saying, you know, it's too much to hold on to, and it's almost sort of like his mind there. He's sort of saying, oh, it's all too much to hold on to. But let's have a quick little look here. Can you now see that we have 4 floating pens? Is he back in his lab? Have they taken him back to his lab to work out what he was doing, what was going on? But he's just sitting there holding his cuffs sort of away in his own world. You know, he's kind of very disassociated anyway from the space and world around him. So a bit of an interesting thing there. But we can clearly see these all floating up in the air. And whatever he's working on, he now potentially has gained an ability. You know, he's not got, unless this is a special suit that helps him with his stuff. And you know, again, we can see these sort of ports. Again, common with a lot of Overwatch gear. Not entirely different from his lab coat that we've seen before. But what, has he gained some sort of power? Is the accidents what's caused him to have this ability to, or so it seems, manipulate gravity? Next piece, pardon me.
It's too much to hold on to. I will bring you a new understanding of the universe. Violence. The universe is singing to me.
So some interesting pieces in that. Now, if you listened to the sounds carefully, you would hear at minimum Reaper's Hellfire shotguns. I think Doomfist might be in there as well, and there might be a Widowmaker's sniper shot. So even in this, the sound effects in the background of that sort of red flashing klaxon and things that in the previous teasers I and several of you guys thought was a breakout sound, is actually Talon breaking him out. So this has to be Talon breaking him out. If you listen to those sound effects carefully, there's definitely Hellfire shotguns in there from Reaper. So we now know that wherever Sigma is or was, Talon have broken him out, and this is kind of confirmed in the next shots anyway.
What is that melody? Freedom. Imprisonment. It's all an illusion.
So this is sort of more of him not being on one timeline to me. And there's also things here of him hearing whispers as well. He's hearing different kinds of auditory hallucination. He's hearing voices, whispers, he's hearing music. You know, maybe slightly schizophrenic, but I'm not going to, you know, try and diagnose him.
Gravity is a harness. I have harnessed the harness. Let's work together.
There we go. So again, just as a final little rewind here, we see, of course, the whole Talon crew. Him manipulating matter. We've got Doomfist there. We've got a little bit of Moira there. We've got Widowmaker there, Sombra there. Presumably, I'm guessing Reaper over on the left here as well. So the whole sort of Talon six there together. And this probably means that our friend Sigma is now, without a shadow of a doubt, the Talon tank. Looking pretty chunky there, with sort of even bits of his armour sort of floating off, bits of his, you know, headpiece almost sort of floating above his head there. So a very interesting set of kit he has, very, very chunky and similar. But even at the end, do you see the little glitch around his head? It's almost as if he's trying to still hold it together. And that's playing and playing as a whisper in the background, his inner dialogue, hold it together, hold it together, hold it together. Very, very interesting indeed. And last but not least, let's have a little think about abilities. Have a look at the end here. So this is the after sort of credits clip. He does a little bit of conducting. Now, he is on Horizon Lunar Colony. A lot of people have said, oh, the orange jumpsuit meant that he was one of the scientists on Horizon or whatever. He was never named there. But if he is an astrophysicist or sort of a particle physicist from what we've seen of the teasers, there's no reason why he couldn't be studying on Horizon, particularly if he's an astrophysicist. He could, of course, just be sort of studying and doing research on Earth as well. 50-50 on that one. But hey, astrophysics, dealing with black holes, there's a very good reason he could be in space. He could be other places in space, but certainly Horizon is a good shot, right? We know that the bit of Horizon that we see wasn't the only colony, as it were, on the moon, and we know that research was going on the moon. So who knows? Maybe he was on the moon, but I'm sure we'll find out more whenever his origin drops. So last but not least, for our friend Sigma, what could his abilities be? Well, we have seen a few little bits and bobs as to what they could be. We see these two spheres that he's kind of generating. Could it be that they get projected by him? Could he use them to sort of, do they implode, do they explode? Are they sort of kind of, you know, two-shot grenades or something like that? We'll see what they are. Black hole energy, something like that. You know, you can't cross over too much with Zarya's graviton, I think. But we need to think of something that's not quite the same as graviton for those two spheres to be. Now, I'm pretty sure he's a tank, right? But he needs to block damage somehow. He looks beefy, big floating, you know, plate armor guy. So that's certainly tanky. One thing he has been shown doing is manipulating, stopping matter, moving it up and down in the air in a couple of those shots, particularly with those pens. So that gives Sigma maybe the option to potentially, I'm thinking Neo Matrix style, when he stops the bullets. Maybe Sigma can do something like that, stop things coming in, and then, you know, do something with them maybe, because otherwise it's just a defense matrix, isn't it? If he just stops them, can he deflect them in a different direction? Could he mirror bullets back at people, for example, like a direct reflect? Throw matter at people. Remember, like, one of Doomfist's original abilities was just ripping a rock out of the ground and throwing it at people. That was shown in, I think, Comic-Con or other footage of Doomfist, like early testing of Doomfist internally at Blizzard. And then as for his ultimate, well, if it's not graviton, if his kit is like lifting and manipulating, maybe he could grab people, objects, things. Could he manipulate not the environment, because that would be destructible levels in Overwatch, right? But could he grab and do something with people, I think? Could he push them away, for example? That could be quite an interesting one, like a pushback, a knockback of some description that perhaps knocks grabs and controls all players and then knocks them back somehow. That'd be quite an interesting one to have a look at. I don't know, a group and area hold or something that's not a graviton. Many different options. Can't wait to find out. So there you go. That is the origin trailer for our friend Sigma. What did you think? What do you think of the hero himself? I can't help but think he's going to be on the PTR tomorrow, if not seen, and we should get a bio for him on the website then as well. So do let me know thoughts, theories, as always in the comments. Love to hear your thoughts. Cheers for tuning in. I've been Hammeh. Keep an eye out for more Overwatch lore. I'll be doing Sigma's full lore breakdown as soon as we have a bio for him on the website. Check out all my other lore interactions and voice lines here, and please do have a look at all my other videos because I'll be working on more Overwatch lore and indeed other Blizzard lore and other gaming and indeed, dare I say it, story lore of other worlds and universes coming up soon. So love to hear your thoughts. Cheers for tuning in. I've been Hammeh. Take it easy.